seams in it.
The two seams came together in the mine next door, so it was 10 foot thick. A big mud band in the middle.
This is a lump of coal. It was formed millions of years ago from the forests that covered this land. Coal is as important to British history as 1066 or the English Civil War. It helped transform Britain through the Industrial Revolution. It powered the factories and trains, it heated our homes, it shaped the communities we live in today. In the 200 years that coal miners mined in an industrial scale, millions of people have toiled under the ground to bring coal to the surface, from coalfields in Scotland, Wales and England, from Lancashire to Yorkshire, from Somerset to Kent. The Irwell Valley running through Salford was one of many coal producing areas of Lancashire. They are all closed now and you wouldn't even know that they existed, as nothing remains of these hives of industrial activity. Newtown, Wheatsheaf, Pendleton, Clifton Hall, Agecroft. These are the names of the collieries of the Irwell Valley. Agecroft was the last to close in 1990. My name is Paul Kelly and I worked at Agecroft Colliery from 1978 to 1990. I want to tell you a story about Agecroft and what it was like working down a coal mine. Coal mining is such an important part of our history. This is my story about Agecroft, the last pit in the valley. This is number 4 shaft. This shaft was used for coal skipping, and the coal skip weighed 15 tonne fully loaded, and it rose to the surface at about 42 feet per second, an astronomical speed. This is number 5 shaft. This was the newest shaft at Agecroft, which was built in the 1950s and was ready for use by 1960. This was the largest shaft at Agecroft, and it had capacity to take 4 cages down the shaft with, I think it was about 30 men in each cage. And this was the fastest one that went down. Very, very powerful engine, 2,500 horsepower engine, powered it from above. Now this is number 3 shaft. This is one of the shafts that I regularly travelled down, and it had a bit of a history. It was the oldest shaft at Agecroft, and the cage, when it went down, it used to bang the sides. It's slightly out of line when they sunk it, so obviously they couldn't re-sink it, so that's the way it stuck. And it was the deepest shaft at Agecroft. From pit top to pit bottom it was 2,235 feet. Now, to give you an example of how deep that is and how we could measure it today and what we can see surrounding us, we're now here at the end of Deansgate, very busy Deansgate, and we're at the bottom of the Beetham Tower. And to give an idea of how much depth we went down at Agecroft Colliery, the drop from pit top to pit bottom, the height of the Beetham Tower is 525 feet. Now imagine 4 of them on top of each other. That was the height we went down at Agecroft Colliery. Some height that, isn't it? Being now. Agecroft Colliery was founded in 1844. It was owned by Andrew Knowles Sr. He was the owner of many collieries in the Irwell Valley. Coal was mined at Agecroft for 128 years. The colliery had 2 periods of production, from 1844 to 1932, and then from 1960 to 1990. In the early 1950s, exploratory boreholes were done in the Prestwich area, and there found substantial amounts of coal, so the pit was reopened to access them, their massive reserves. The original shafts number 3 and 4 were relined, and a new shaft number 5 was sunk. The area was redeveloped, and many people will remember the concrete towers which soared 200 feet into the air. They could be seen from many miles away and were an iconic Salford landmark. Inside the 2 concrete winding towers, the winding gear was used to bring men, supplies and coal from the pit bottom to the top. When the coal was reached the surface, it was taken to the runner mine where it was crushed, the dirt separated from the coal, and the coal was taken to the washery, then onto the power station by conveyor belt. The power station supplied power to Salford and Bury. The coal mine was divided into 2 sectors, the north and the south. The areas worked underground in the northern area extended under Whitefield, Prestwich and Radcliffe, and in the southern areas Swinton, Eccles, Salford and Worsley. At its height, the colliery employed nearly 2,000 people in a variety of jobs. It wasn't just the miners underground, many other people were employed as electricians, bricklayers, joiners, canteen staff, medical staff and clerical staff. They all worked together to produce the coal which supplied the electricity which we all used. The miners all belonged to the National Union of Mine Workers, and the union looked after the men's interests and fought for safe working conditions and decent wages. The last coal was mined in 1990 and Agecroft was closed. The towers came down and the mine shafts were capped. This famous Salford landmark was no more. Industrial units and a business park now filled the site of Agecroft Colliery. So what was it like working underground as a miner? Because Agecroft Colliery no longer exists, we've come to the National Mining Museum of England at Wakefield to show people what it was like working underground and showing them some of the machinery and fixtures that were used underground.
See you when you come out, lads.
And how long did it take to get down here, is it?
Just over 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes drop. So what's that? What was it in the original speed? A lot faster.
Well, we're going now about 1.5 metres a second. If it was a working coal mine, you were travelling anything up to 10 metres a second. 6 times faster.
Yeah. At Agecroft it was about 90 feet a second drop. 2,500 horsepower winding gear. So that's the modern one. Of course, it's fast enough as well. When we're going down to Parsonage Pit in Lee, that was 90 a second, 3,000 foot drop. That's the sort of speed you travel down. To get to our place of work, we had to descend down the shaft in what was called the pit cage, from the pit top to the pit bottom. Going down at the time, early shift, you sort of felt a bit groggy because you just woke up not long before, and I don't know, you was a bit queasy sometimes depending on your night before. Some of the miners would have had a lot of beer and perhaps a curry, and you could certainly smell that and the after effects of it. And when before you knew it, you were at the pit bottom anyway, and then you would meet your deputy and you'd be allocated the job for the day that you're to do. Nobody thought when you're like a couple of miles in by, isn't it? You know, when somebody says that.
What, very shallow coal mine, this one as well. It's only 140 metres.
Yeah.
Some of the Celtic coal mines were 11 and 1,200 metres deep.
Well, ours was 2,200 foot pit bottom, and then it's a down throw through the Pendleton Fault, and that was like 1,000 yards. That's another couple of thousand, 3,000 feet. Yeah. We were working like infinity 3,000 to 4,000 feet. When you're getting out. Parts of the pit were pitch black, and the only means of light you had was your cap lamp. If that failed, you were in pitch darkness. One of the biggest dangers underground was methane gas, which could cause deadly explosions. This is testing for gas. The deputy had tested for gas. He was also called the fireman. And originally, the deputy would go in with rags over him, wet rags, and he'd burn the methane off the roof. Pretty dangerous job, really. And that's what he was called the fireman. He didn't actually put fires out, he lit fires and got rid of the gas, the excess gas out of the coal seams, and he tested for gas by holding it up to the roof. The gas lit, it was odourless and colourless, so you set the gas by using a lamp, a protector lamp from Eccles. The Eccles Lamp and Protector Company, which is still going today. So you can see he's turned the light down very low by means of a switch underneath the base of the lamp. And if there's a presence of methane, it will go through the grooves at the top, through a gauze, and it'll increase the light in the lamp. So then you'll know there's gas in the atmosphere. If you had a certain percentage, I think a couple of 3%, you'd get to get out sharpish, and you'd have this would be an idea of how much percentage of gas is in the height of the blue flame here. So if there's a certain percentage, 5 to 15, something like that, you're well out because it's in danger of explosion. That's our park side. The pit was closed in the last pit in Lancashire closed. Because what they did, it was occupied by Anne Scargill and the Women Against Pit Closures, and they were on the pit top, and the manager turned off the ventilation. And of course he couldn't put it back on again in case there was an explosion. That was the excuse anyway. So they shut the pit through that. Ripping was one of the hardest jobs in the pit. It was a very dangerous job, and it was a job that I did for a while. This job was called a ripper, and it was a very, very dangerous job. I think it's one of the hardest jobs in the pit, because basically what he did, this is a rip lip, and he did the headings towards the coal seam. He did he's a tunneler. Of course he used these drills, and a massive drill like this, and it used to shake your hands like hell. And this is quite low. The ones at Agecroft, sometimes you'd have a platform, they were so high. You know, the roadways, you'd be stood on a platform. And the pressure to push this was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I had an accident once because I had my hand out like that, and a piece of rock fell down and split my thumb. It's straight from the top. It's the worst one I had, apart from breaking my ankle. But it was a very, very hard job. I think the average age of a ripper before nationalisation was about 45 or something like that, because you're constantly in a dusty environment. You're looking up. It's falling in your eyes if you're up, and it's just an awful job, very hard job, very tough. You get that dust all the time. It's in your eyes. You're basically swallowing it. It's in your face. It's down your throat. It's a very hard job. Explosives were used to dislodge rock and coal and crack the face. It was dangerous work, and this is how we used to do it. The deputies preparing shots for firing to crack the face, to make the coal easier to get at, or maybe going through some rock, something like that. It's tamping it in with it's a deputy stick. It's about a yard long, that, and it's also the same length as these rungs here. So you have pressure, equal pressure to the roadway. So he's tamping it in now, the charge, then he'll crack the face with a series of explosions, like crack. And we had a machine called Abate oven. Of course it was called Abate oven because it went, and that was the cracking of the face, to make it easy for the coal to be got when you came along with the cutter. After a long period of hard toil underground, many miners suffered injuries and wear and tear to the body. Obviously they couldn't go on doing heavy work, and towards the end of their careers they were given lighter jobs to do in the pit.
This man's one of the ex-rippers we told you about earlier on. With the dust in his lungs, we found him easy jobs to do because he wasn't fit to do his own job. He just watches the conveyor belts. That's his snapped in. His water bottle.
And that's for his food, his 20-minute break, which you got called snap time, unless you work through. You've got double time for working it, and then took it later on when the belt's buggered up. And had a drink when you're doing nothing else. And obviously it was tin to stop the mice getting at it. I remember at Agecroft, there's mice the size of bumblebees, field mice that came down, and the throat's only that big. They crawl up your legs as well. Sometimes you put bands on your legs just to block. You sit down, they'll be running up your legs but getting bits of bread and things like that. So rats as well, of course, in some pits. So you had a metal tin to stop them getting in it, of course. Working underground was extremely noisy. This led to many miners developing hearing problems because of the machinery, and many miners would have suffered hearing difficulties for the rest of the days, and many miners went completely deaf. Right, we're showing some pneumatic tools that we used in the pit. Of course they're all air powered for safety, and they're very heavy tools, which you can't see, but they're all metal. Everything's metal in the pit, everything's armour plated except us humans. That's why we got a lot of injuries. Of course this is the sort of tool that gave miners vibration like finger, because of the constant shaking of the tools. It ruined the nerve endings in people's fingers and wrists. How loud they were, we're going to turn them on, and you hear a bit of an hissing sound in the background now. That's the air being released there, and the air went down the tubes here into the tools and gave them the power to work. You can listen to the noise of them now.
Imagine the noise they make all together.
Yeah. Working underground meant squeezing your body into confined spaces. Of course this gave a lot of wear and tear on people's bodies, on the miners' bodies, especially the knees, the hips and all the joints, because you're in positions that you shouldn't really be in for such a long time, and this is where a lot of miners get osteoarthritis, back pain, neck pain, of course, because you're always bending your neck looking down, or you're in roadways that aren't very high. So this is one of the reasons you get crippling injuries. We're working in the pit. The machinery underground was quite modern. We had walking chocks that moved like robots' legs. These are hydraulic chocks. Of course these held the roof up. They're walking chocks as well. They walk on their own. Well, from you would at Agecroft they would work from the surface, from what was called the Fido, and you travel along. And this is how you'd access getting through to the face, walking through the chocks. Very narrow, very high, very hot again. Once again, very hot. And on the right there, you can see the drum, the cutter, and that was cutting into the face, the coal. Britain's pits were the most modern in the world. The mining techniques were the safest in the world, and we had the best safety record of all the pits in Europe. Roof bolts were used to support the roof. This knitted together the strata above our heads and stopped the roof falling, the cause of many serious deaths and injuries in the pits.
Right, roof bolting, we don't use girders anymore. Quicker system, it's just as safe. No heavy lifting for the miners with the girders. Roof bolts. Basically you drill a long hole into the roof, about 8 feet long. You pack it with resin. This machine pushes the bolt up and mixes the resin with the bolt. Within 30 seconds it tightens the nut up and it pulls the rock together. And that's roof bolts, and same in the sides.
So it's pretty stable. And this is a coal cutter we used at Agecroft. It's an AM500 and it had massive teeth that cut into the coal.
Dosco didn't tell you. Now, it would jump forward into the rock and coal. He could lift his jib up, drop it down, it'd chew it all up and it'd go straight down the middle of the machine onto the conveyor belts. We used these in the 70s and 80s. Machines today like this are about probably 8 or 9 times bigger than this one.
The risk of explosion was an ever-present danger. This is one way we dealt with the risk.
Right, there are 2 types of explosions in coal mines. Methane explosions and coal dust explosions. Your coal dust tends to lodge on little ledges like that. You can see it coming down there. Very explosive, but if we found out, if we mix this stuff with it, stone dust, it stops it from exploding.
We've just seen John stone dusted, limestone dust, and that was my first job in the pit when I went down the pit bottom. The deputy allocates you a job, and it was carrying sacks of stone dust to the various places where it needs to be spread, just like what John's done to stop the explosions. It was a hell of an hard job and all, but the stone dust came from it was Blue Circle Cement Works in Buxton, near Buxton, and I hated every one of them. And you see that Blue Circle Cement around there now, it was really heavy and we had to carry it all over the shop. After working underground for an 8-hour shift, you couldn't wait to get home. Right, we're on our way out now. Say you've been an afternoon shift, it'd be an absolute fight to get out of here. Scramble. I think how many did it all, this cage?
This one holds 20.
Right, there's 20 men in a cage, and how many work down here?
Well, at peak about 300.
Right, so you can imagine 300 men trying to get out first. The total scrum. They weren't so quick going in. They were like a drudge in and then a fly out. So the quicker you got out, the quicker you got shot, the quicker you got home, and the quicker you did what you want to do. Go to the pub or whatever.
Stop one.
Right, we're in the cage now. We're just ascending. You don't have to imagine how we felt going up that cage. We were glad to get out of the environment we'd just been in. We were looking forward to getting a shower and getting off home.
You actually see the daylight now as you're getting up.
Now, is this my best side? A girl?
Another shift done, that'll do me. See you at 6 in the morning.
Thank you.
Bye. There had been coal mining for nearly 170 years at Agecroft, but there's nothing to show for that now. There's a pleasant green field, but you wouldn't know that there was once a hive of industry. You can, however, get a glimpse of what coal mining was like with a visit to the National Coal Mining Museum at Wakefield, or a little closer home at Astley Green Colliery Museum near Wigan. There you can still see the winding gear, a familiar sight throughout all coal fields of the country. Here we are at Astley Green Colliery, and this is the last piece of tangible, how should I say, museum piece of the mining industry, a once great industry that covered the whole of Lancashire. All we have is the winding gear and the winding house, and this is all that's left of the Lancashire coalfield that you can actually see, and it's quite sad. Fortunately, it's been saved as a piece of historical history now, and that's it. From this area there was a massive coalfield inheritance. All the men who worked in these villages worked in the pits round here. Mosley Common just down the road, which employed 5,000 men once, which was the biggest employer in Britain of a coal mine, but shut in 1968. And this colliery shut in 1970, and a lot of the men from here transferred to Agecroft and continued the mining career there until they retired. But they'll have started here when they were about 14, 15, some of them. Certainly some of the ones who I knew were 14 when they started in the coal mines, and a couple of them started at this pit. It's just one winding wheel left in the whole of Lancashire. That's the lot. That's all we've got left to show for our mining industry. The Irwell Valley Mining Project was created to ensure that Agecroft Colliery's contribution to the history of Salford is duly recognised. This is my heritage, and it's also yours. We need to remember it and not neglect it. The project has helped bring about the first memorial to Agecroft, which was unveiled in the summer of 2013. If by visiting the memorial or by watching this film, you stop and think about all those who toiled underground and those who never made it back to the surface, you can then start to recognise the role that coal miners played in the shaping of the country you live in today.